Hey everyone, Atsu here alongside this very cute ball also known as Jojo, Josephine Joestar. Let's see if she'll take a look at us if I say her name. Jojo! Jojo! Ah, there she is. She needs me to say it in the Japanese way. Instead of Jojo, she responds to Jojo, which is, of course, a reference to JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Josephine Joestar. Anyway, this is not what you guys are here for. Today, I wanted to talk about a bit of drama. Is it really drama? I don't really know. It's kind of a big discussion that happened around 2 weeks ago. But as you guys know, I was at TwitchCon and I was abroad in San Diego, so I didn't really have any opportunity to make a video on this or live stream my thoughts or comments on it, which a lot of people seem to be interested in because I am what someone would call an endgame player or a Giga whale. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, it is an article that came out almost 2 weeks ago now, October 1st, over 2 weeks ago, almost 3 weeks ago. Genshin Impact developers talk endgame content and welcoming newcomers. We spoke with the developers behind Genshin Impact to learn more about what's coming after version 3.1. Now, something that I noticed in the community that not many people are asking, and I wish more people did ask, is how much verification can we get for this source? How reliable is this source? And how legitimate is this article? Now, I did a little bit of digging, and all you have to do is click on this little Twitter bird icon here, and you can take a look that Ethan Anderson is the person that conducted this interview. But actually, it wasn't even an interview. It wasn't a flowing conversation. He sent in a whole list of questions, and he received a whole list of answers in reply. And some people were skeptical that this was not actually the developers of Genshin Impact, but rather the customer service clients, which are often outsourced and not really working for Hoyoverse, which, after looking through the article multiple times, I do believe is a very realistic reality, in the sense that a lot of the conversation here doesn't seem to be from a legitimate developer. No developer has been named, no specifics have been given, we don't know anything here. The English here is a little bit sus. I would say that it's not native English that has been responded with, which means that it is possible it is a developer, it's a Chinese staff member that doesn't want to give too much away. But there is a specific part of this article which really upset a lot of people. The first one being the Spiral Abyss, and the second one being that there is going to be no expansion of the resin system. Because at the moment, I do think a lot of people feel like original resin or fragile resin or even condensed resin, if we look at here, is a little bit limited. And the response that the person was given on whether we're going to see more resin and increase to the cap was a non-answer. Essentially, they didn't answer the question and they didn't really say anything about it, so they dodged it. So there's still a possibility. There is still a teeny tiny bit of possibility that we are going to see an increase. Something I would love to see is an increase in how much condensed resin we can make, because condensed resin, if we can store up a lot of it, for those people who are busy with real life commitments, we can save up maybe 20, 30, 40, 50 condensed resin. I know that's way more than the 5 that we get right now, but that will allow us to maybe take a time out of our weekend and be like, this is going to be my dedicated Genshin Impact gaming session, where I'm going to go full degen for 1, 2, 3, 4 hours, because for the rest of the week I'm busy and I don't want to spend all my resin in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 day frequencies, and I need to wait X amount of time before I can do it. For example, for me, condensed resin, doing an artifact run takes around 20 to 30 seconds, and then collecting all of that and all the animations will total around 1 minute per condensed resin. So if I had 100 condensed resin, that does not even give me 2 hours of gameplay. But I am a very extreme example of someone who has end game, spent a lot of money on the game, and I can clear stuff very quickly. But even from a content creator's perspective, if I could have up to 100 condensed resin, that would be amazing. As someone who's been very busy recently and doesn't get all the time in the world to play Genshin anymore, I would absolutely love it if I could just log in, condense my resin, do my dailies, log off, and then when I have time to actually spend and commit to Genshin Impact, I can do a long stream with lots of artifact gambles, lots of artifact rolling, and that would be a lot of fun and a lot of convenience, and it wouldn't really change anything to do with the game other than the fact that I get to choose and have more control over when I dedicate my time to Genshin Impact, which I think would be very nice for almost every single player, because it's optional. You don't have to play that way. If you don't want to play that way, if you want to play that way, you can play play that way, and both sides can coexist. Now, coexistence is something that definitely fell apart during this article and during all of this drama and discourse, with currently the Spiral Abyss is the only true endgame content for players at high adventure ranks. Are there any plans to release new permanent endgame content in the same vein as the Spiral Abyss? Too long, don't want to read. The answer they essentially said is no, we're going to be focusing on other forms of content to keep players entertained. And there is a specific line here that really upset a lot of people, saying Spiral Abyss, it might end up creating excessive anxiety for our players. Not everyone is interested in Musk Reef. Now, the way this is written again makes me believe that there might have been either a slight mistranslation here or a little bit of misunderstanding with how to phrase things from Chinese to English, because if you're talking to the devs, obviously you're speaking to someone that's native in Chinese and not in English, so there might be a translation error here. If you're speaking to a customer service representative, then obviously they are not necessarily the end-all be-all in terms of giving out factual statements about what's happening with the future of the game. That stuff aside, if this is the reality that we have and there's no end game other than the Spiral Abyss, which is obviously not good enough for a lot of players now who are especially at higher adventure ranks and have built their characters, then we might have a little bit of a problem. But the first problem that really arose from this is how much the community just freaking hates each other. The people that are like die-hard for Genshin Endgame and Spiral Abyss and building their characters and min-maxing and just making sure they have correct builds, objectively correct builds, as in that maximizes the utility and efficiency of characters, and versus the other side who don't like Spiral Abyss, that don't like building their characters, that like the story, that like the characters, that like hangout events, teapot, etc., all of the more quality of life, non-combat related stuff. These two sides apparently hate each other. They don't realize that both sides can coexist, and there are also some players in the middle who like everything. Like for me, I really like the Archon quest, I like Spiral Abyss, I love all the combat events, and any characters that come out which are very, very mucho gracias, very sexy, very estoy caliente, you know what I'm saying, is that kind of stuff. I like the daddies in Genshin Impact. I play for the characters, the building and combat, and the Archon quest is the bonus. That bonus is really nice because it's very, very well made in Genshin Impact. Compared to any other gacha game, I think Genshin is still the best, hands down, in terms of sleek design, in terms of how well it runs on consoles, on PC, on mobile, so many different platforms, and there's so many different regions and so many players that play the game. I think Genshin Impact is superior to almost every, if not every single gacha game in existence. Now, the thing is though, there are some people who are players that don't like Hangout Quest, that don't like the Teapot. I'm technically one of them, however I do like the Archon Quest. A lot of people know I don't like doing the random story quest. I think that's a sentiment shared between a lot of people, but I still don't understand why people think that it's impossible for these to coexist, right? And this answer here that we had been given does kind of play into that, which is the not everyone is interested in Musk Reef. That is totally valid. And it might end up creating excessive anxiety for people. Now, this was ridiculed immensely, and I don't think it's necessarily fair to ridicule this because I do think this is actually true. I know a lot of people, especially people in my community and more casual content creators audiences, actually really don't like the Spiral Abyss. They don't like the idea that they're also missing out on Primo Gems, for example, on these floors. Even though, for example, if you can't do floor 11 and you can't do floor 12, you're literally missing out 300 Primo Gems every 2 weeks. That's not even 2 pulls. You can't even pull for 2 things with these rewards. Maybe if you can't do all 4 of these floors, or you just choose not to do it, that's 300 Primo Gems there, 400, 600 Primo Gems. It's 5 pulls. It's just 5 pulls every 2 weeks. I guess it does add up over time, but I don't think it's the end-all, be-all of Genshin. It's not even 5 pulls. I'm stupid. It's 600 Primo Gems, which is 150 times 4, and that's not even 4 pulls. You can't even do 4 wishes with that. So, over the course of the year, it's not really adding up to a lot if you can't do the Spiral Abyss, Floor 11, Floor 12. Now, if you can't do floor 9, floor 10, floor 11, and floor 12, then it starts adding up to being a few multis that you might end up missing over the course of a whole year if you don't want to do it. So I understand why people are upset with Spiral Abyss, because they feel like, oh no, I don't want to do this. If I can't do this, I'm going to be punished severely, and I'm going to miss out on wailing or wishing for my favorite characters. And those players do exist, and I feel like it is unfair to pretend like those players don't exist. And, you know, the FOMO is real. The fear of missing out, FOMO, is really real in that sense. The thing is, there is a solution to this. Spiral Abyss is dedicated to those players who can either beat it, or who want the challenge, or who want to put their characters to the absolute limit or the test. If you are at that point in the game, getting a few extra pulls, 150 Primo Gems additional, is not going to make the difference to your account that a lot of people think it is. Like for the whales, for the Giga Whales, even for F2P players, for any endgame players, 150 Primo Gems for the majority of these players is worthless. Because it's either going to go into a refill, it's either going to go into copium saving for another character, and it's not necessarily worthless, but it's not that valuable compared to, guess what, either more resin that can be condensed, or fragile resin. Fragile resin from Spiral Abyss would be amazing, but what does that resin get used for ultimately? It's for artifacts. Artifacts are something that we're already getting from Spiral Abyss as rewards. There's a lot of RNG in them. We also get 4-star artifacts as rewards, which I think is just stupid. And then if we have Spiral Abyss, and that's the only form of endgame we have, there's no reason that they can't necessarily expand that to go to floor 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, blah, 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 blah. Maybe even up to like floor 30. But just discontinue the Primo Gem rewards and instead give us some sort of rewards dedicated to artifacts, because that's what endgame players want. We want the nice artifacts. We want every opportunity that we can get to go over 40 crit value on our artifacts, if not the elusive legendary 50 crit value. And that's what endgame players want, and that's what anyone that really truly understands and enjoys the Spiral Abyss wants, is to make the most out of the characters and make them as strong as possible, as close to 100% perfection as possible. And that's what we want. Artifacts. Casual players do not care about min-maxing their artifacts. Therefore, this is a happy balance. This is the solution. Now, I'm not saying after you complete these additional floors of Spiral Abyss to give us the best artifacts ever. However, I do think it is very, 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 very feasible that we can definitely start rewarding players with these boxes over here. As you can see, they only give you 2 artifact sets right now. I think a great reward and a great in-between would be to give us a box like this where we can pick any artifact set we want, and it will guarantee a 5-star with 4 artifact substats. You can't guarantee the main stat, there still needs to be RNG, and you can't guarantee the 4 substats that come with it. But I think it would be a lot more interesting if we could start guaranteeing at least there's going to be 4 substat rolls there. Maybe we can guarantee the main stat. That's something people would have to discuss, or that's something we'd have to find a happy balance with. But I do think having a buffed version of this reward is the most obvious and simple solution, because it doesn't mean people have a fear of missing out. Those people who find Spiral Abyss terrifying, those people who don't want to build their characters or take on combat events, artifacts don't matter to them. People who love combat events and want to max out their characters, this is what we want. We want artifacts. I don't care about 150 Primo Gems. I would give up 150 Primo Gems in an instant if I could get an artifact that gives me a main stat choice, or gives me an artifact choice that gives me a decent chance at getting either 20, 30, 40 crit rate value item. Okay, maybe not 20 crit value. That's a little bit copium, but anything over 30 crit value and a chance at that, it will fuel my Gamba addiction. It will fuel the dopamine rush I get from rolling for artifacts, so that's still there, and it will give me an incentive to continue doing the Spiral Abyss, and also gives us a reason to have Spiral Abyss past floor 12. I really do think it is a very, very simple solution. How easy that is to bring into the game, I don't really know, because I don't understand how games are truly made, and I will probably never understand it. So if you can enlighten me, that would be great. But I do think that's all you got to do. That's really all you got to do. Condensed resin, I feel like that cap 100% has to go up. That has to increase. 5 is not enough. 10 is not enough. 20 is not enough. At least 30. And I'm being dead ass right here. I know 30 might seem extreme to a lot of people, but there's really no harm in having 30 condensed resin, which you can use at any moment in time. Maybe you save it for a new patch. Maybe you save it for a gaming degenerate session that you want to have. And I feel like there's absolutely no problem at all, because it doesn't affect people who don't want to condense their resin. If you want to condense your resin and save it, excellent. If you don't want to condense your resin, you're not losing out whatsoever. So I just don't understand why they haven't done this already, because I just feel like it's common sense. But that is my 2 cents on the main things regarding this article. Otherwise, I don't feel like there's much else to say. There's many other things in here, such as skins. Again, I feel like this is an obvious point. They could make so much money if they added skins to the game, but they don't. I don't know why they don't. Maybe it's really difficult to design them and make them function in game. I don't really know, but there is an argument that people always say is like, Hoyoverse is a multi-billion-dollar company, therefore they should be able to do XYZ, XYZ, XYZ. If you have learned anything, guys, anything from the history of gaming or being in the gaming community, just because a company makes a crap ton of money does not mean they have the right people employed. And this is something, a lesson with life, is just because a company is successful doesn't mean you're going to get a 5-star service just because they're successful, because ultimately the pieces that make that company are individuals. And if the individual is having a bad day or they don't want to do their job properly, it's not as simple as just firing them and replacing them and then training another person, XYZ, and just throwing money at the solution. You actually need the pieces of the puzzle or the ticking machine to function properly. Otherwise, you're not going to get the end product. So it's really not as simple as just throw endless money at it to solve solutions. But I feel like that's something that you learn as you grow and you get older and you have real life experience dealing with other people who may or may not be doing their job properly. So that is my ultimate understanding of the situation. That's my ultimate take on the situation. I feel like I did forget about something, but I do apologize. And to end off the video, for those of you who have been here for a while now, first of all, I do apologize. I have not been streaming. It's been almost 3 weeks now. And the reason why is because it's not because I'm bored of Genshin, I'm burnt out of Genshin. I myself am just burnt out, full stop. Out of content creation, I'm just tired. Genuinely, I've been traveling so much and I want to take some time to take a break. So I am kind of all over the place. I do apologize. And I hope you guys understand that I just need some time to detox and I will be back eventually. But yes, thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful, wonderful day and bye-bye.